back to the Echo and Change podcast. My name is Stefan Parpiera. I am the host and blog writer for the Echo and Change blog. And just a side note before we get into it, before I introduce my guest today, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for the support. I know that most people who read the blog don't get on the channel, but I just want to say thank you for the support. As of today, I just checked, we're up to almost 23,000 views on the blog. I just want to say thank you for all the support. And yeah, without further ado, let me introduce my guest for today and co-host of the episode, my friend Sebastian. Would you like to introduce yourself, where you're from, and kind of just what got you inspired and interested in social justice?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for having me on this blog and podcast episode. But yeah, I am Sebastian Vargas. I'm half Costa Rican and half Chilean, and this episode is going to be focusing on immigration. And I think Stefan has put enough faith into me to talk about this subject, as I have firsthand experienced this. What was your other question about inspiring?
Yeah, what inspired you to get involved and interested in social justice as a whole, and specifically the immigration crisis that is kind of a big talk in the news lately? Like, what inspired you? What about your background and family?
Well, coming from a lower income household, from parents that both immigrated here at an extremely young age just to make a living, and just being raised in a rich area while I'm of low income, kind of just made me realize of how separated I am from different households and just what's the norm to other people, especially those of privilege. And I guess just this uprising, along with exposure to other things in life, such as through other topics and interests of mine, has just really brought me inspiration to talk about such topics.
Yeah, I think familial roles and places that we're from really bring us all into this subject, which is really beautiful because it's so many people from so many different backgrounds kind of going together and coming together for one cause with many different names in many different countries. I know I can speak on that too. I know I'm not super lower income, but I was born in Prague, of course, as some of you readers know. My mom's Romanian, my dad's Czech, and I speak 3 languages, of course, and I've moved all around. And yeah, that kind of got me into it as someone part of so many different communities. That got me into it as well. But for Sebastian, we have a couple questions. I have a couple questions prepared. You can ask your own, and you can come up with some on the spot. But the first question, because the election is coming up so soon, one of the main talking points and viewpoints and running points of the Republican Party today is the topic of immigration and deportation. J.D. Vance a couple days ago said that if you were in this country illegally, that in 60 days you should pack your bags, that it's over. What do you have to say to that, and what do you have to say to this topic as a whole?
I, first of all, want to state that I do not necessarily affiliate myself with any political party, but I tend to lean towards liberal policies. And with what Vance said, what position is he running for? Vice President for Trump? His intentions on immigration policies to me are just extremely cruel and brutal, when through much shown studies that immigration is not just taking people's jobs, it's also bringing in an extreme income and rise in economy. But all in all, I can't necessarily say as a first-generation American that I disagree with his ideas of there's just too many flowing into this country. But there's ways to rephrase this or to do this better than there is, because coming from parents that are illegal and are at a higher risk, especially considering Trump's policies of taking away rights of the son or of the children of illegal parents, it would affect me as well. and I think that's just what's leading my cause, my motive as to opposing Vance.
Recent studies show that the U.S. foreign-born population, the U.S. immigrant population, reached a record high of almost 50 million people. That accounts for almost 14% of the U.S. population. And many people say that most of these immigrants that are coming into the country, that they're coming and stealing the jobs from hardworking Americans. Do you, just your opinion, do you think that U.S. immigrants take more from the country or give more? Would it be legal or not? Because I know I'm an immigrant, I know I'm legal, I know you're an immigrant, I know you're legal. Do you think that legal and illegal take away from the country or give to it more on average?
Well, in my opinion, I kind of touched on this already, but in a socio-economical sense, I do think there is an extreme benefit in bringing immigrants into this country. I mean, we could take examples all around the globe that just immigrants bring extreme profit. For example, Indian workers in Dubai, with architecture, just make it much of a richer area. But this is specifically talking about the United States, of course, and with Hispanic immigrants coming to this country, it's going up and up again, as Stefan said. Apparently, almost 50 million, record high, which is an extremely insane amount. And besides socioeconomic effects, I really, from my own personal standpoint, I don't think there is many downsides to us being here. Besides maybe border crisis, border control is just getting out of hand and harder nowadays. But I think that can be fixed in better methods, without just separating families, dispersing them, especially with parents from different ethnic groups that just separate the entire family alone.
Well, statistics say that immigrants give more to this country than they take. On average, immigrants, legal and illegal, give more to this country than they take. But some people think that doesn't matter. Some people say that it doesn't matter how much they give. It doesn't matter if they contribute hours and hours more, on average more than citizens and legal people a week. It doesn't matter how much more they contribute, that they're still illegal and that they should still be deported. Would you agree with this or no?
I think if immigrants are bringing a benefit to this country, I genuinely do not see why they are being ridiculed and out of threat of deportation, especially from the Republican Party and extreme right-wing people. While you want to keep this country as traditional and conservative as possible, I understand those ideals coming from an extremely religious Hispanic family, that people tend to stay too focused on traditional ideas, and that's completely onto your own opinion and just how you were raised and experienced that life. But in my eyes, in something like this that affects the country as a whole, the socioeconomic status, I think we should be more open-minded, and that's why I disagree with people that are threatening and saying that anyone of descent outside of the United States should just be kicked out of this country.
So, would you say that immigrants are beneficial to the economy and to the country? But do you think that it should be harder for them to come in? And do you think that there should still be a crackdown on illegal immigrants? I think we can agree statistically that they do contribute more than they take. But do you think that it's still too easy to come into this country illegally?
Great question. And coming from a son of illegal immigrants, genuinely, I do think that they should be cracked down. That's honestly, in my eyes, why so much hatred is sent towards us and the Mexican border along Texas and New Mexico. and the new emphasis put by Trump a couple years ago. While I'm not saying we should just deport and kick them all out, not that they've already been here, but the border crisis is getting out of hand. I mean, we could take other examples around the globe with these things. For example, the Polish border with people immigrating from Belarus or trying to. Extremely rough conditions. And in this case, it's kind of like, I could understand why a nation on its own would want to keep this country safe from foreigners. But again, making the point that I don't think we should just remove and exile the ones that have been here for long enough and have not caused a single problem, especially considering after the statistics you've said, they have brought benefit to this country economically, especially.
I think that's very insightful. Another question that's been very popular in the news lately, or just in general, a lot of people come into this country illegally and have kids so that their kids will get citizenships automatically. That's kind of the main goal, and they know that even if they're going to be deported later by future administration or just any unlucky or coincidence or anything, that their kids will still be here and have the opportunities. Do you think that the kids should be deported with them, even if they were given a citizenship, because they were given to it by birth? But some might say that it's unfair because the parents came in illegally and they knew what they were doing. Do you think that the kids should be held accountable or no? Some people on the other side of this argument say that they shouldn't be because it's just a kid and he doesn't know what they're doing. That was what Obama did. That was what his administration did, that kind of protected the kids through DACA. Do you think that this should be overturned? Do you think that the kids should also be part of the consequences or no?
That's honestly an extremely tough question for me to answer. Not because it's too controversial or anything, but simply because I'm too much of a mixed opinion on that. I mean, I could again understand both sides of that, like the kid being too young to be deported along back to his home country. But at the same time, if the kid is too young, how is it going to sustain itself, especially considering it has no family in the United States? Because that's what a lot of immigrants do. Either they chain migrate, go where other, Mexicans are.
Yeah, it's a very complicated question.
Seriously, it is, and so they tend to migrate with other people or other similar ethnic groups, or they're completely separated. And they don't know where else to go besides just giving birth to a child and working these extremely minimum wage jobs that at the end of the day cannot sustain a child. And I am literally talking from experience. I was, for my first year of birth, I was literally living in a basement as tall as my mom. And okay, my mom's a taller woman, but at the end of the day, while I am extremely grateful for my life, I honestly would have preferred different circumstances, and to stop relying on so many other programs or people to have funded me and my upbringing. So that is why I can understand Obama's perspective on wanting to keep kids here, but I could also understand Trump's,
I mean, you're legal, your parents are legal, we both know that, but we're kind of speaking on illegal immigrants this time. Do you think that citizenship should be taken for those cases away from the kid as well, and the kid deported?
See, I don't necessarily enjoy on talking on things that I haven't necessarily experienced, but for immigrant families that are illegal, as Stefan put emphasis on,
It's a tough question.
That is a tough question. I genuinely, it's like a perspective of morality and just genuine politics, which is honestly a huge upbringing of many things, with how both presidential candidates are handling with problems. But I think at the end of the day, I've made this point, and that we should crack down on illegal immigrants, but for ones that have stayed here for long enough, and if they had a kid here, to make them legal. Again, if they've been here long enough, I don't think they should be removed, even if it is quote-unquote unfair by the right-wing parties.
So you think that if a person and their family was here long enough and they've proven loyalty to this country and they've like proven hard work and employment and like no like crimes or anything, and if a kid got the citizenship here, you think that they should be able to stay here if they can prove that, and if the kid has citizenship, of course?
Yes, that is exactly my perspective, especially considering when a kid, I don't know if this is a federal or a state law, but when a kid turns 21, parents automatically get residency, and they have to uphold that for 5 years with no crimes, and then they get citizenship. So I think rules like that crack it down a little bit, but also make it extremely more consistent in a way.
Okay. This is going to be the last question for today, unless you have other opinions that you want to touch up on, or other questions you have for me or anyone else. But a big opinion or like side of the argument usually from liberals, but from people involved in this conflict from all angles. A big opinion they have is that most people emigrate because they want to get away from situations that are harmful. For example, they live in Mexico or in another low-income country, and their village or town or city is being riddled with crime from gangs or something. So they want to immigrate to a better country with more opportunities. And it's kind of hard to have a kid when you're not sure if the kid is going to make it home from school every night. Do you think that it's the U.S.'s responsibility, when they're seeing so many people flood in from these types of situations? Do you think that the U.S. has some sort of responsibility, or you think the U.S. should try to intervene in these situations, make certain cities and areas of other countries safer that people are immigrating from most often, to try to mitigate the immigration and try to keep people there that way, like keeping them safe and getting involved in other countries, introducing democracy and safety in that way, and keeping people there? Do you think that would be a good option or no?
So from my understanding, your question is asking me if the United States should intervene into big cities that people are migrating from their own country. Okay. That idealistically is an amazing idea. While I don't necessarily agree with imposing our democratic viewpoints on them, as we used to do that in the past and received extreme backlash from other countries, I do think that trying to mitigate immigration in the first place by helping would be a fantastic idea even. But from a political standpoint of that own nation's government, not a lot of countries actually like the United States of America, especially South America, just from tensions over time. But yes, if we found a way to just stop illegal immigration in the first place and just keep migration for job opportunities or genuine benefits to our economy, then I don't see why not that shouldn't be imposed, because people have, in my opinion at least, this false notion of the American dream, which just isn't realistic. But people just go with it because they always think that it'll be a better life. But as a matter, if anything, if you're the first ones to come to this country, the United States, the quote-unquote the best country in the world, it's extremely rough getting accustomed and even making a living through here, especially with how much the higher, like, not the pay rate, but just how expensive it is compared to, I don't know, somewhere in Guatemala. But yeah.
So do you think that the United States should intervene, or at least, set up talks with other countries to try to mitigate this, to try to make certain places safer, try to keep people there? Do you think that they should tackle that problem in that way, yes or no?
Yes, for sure. I feel like we well, we are, but we should become even more of a diplomatic country, while keeping a fair play between the government parties and not imposing anything. And I think it should be fine. And yeah.
Well, that's all I had today. Unless you have any other questions or anything you want to touch up on? No?